This is the final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media, and we will liberate America from these villains once and for all.
Meantime, former President Trump predicted a strong victory here in New Hampshire yesterday.
The president making his final push to those voters.
All right, I got a chance to catch up with the former president about what it's taken him to get to this point, on the cusp, perhaps, of locking up the nomination, but more the day in the life, or should I say, a night in the life of a candidate.
Welcome to the tarmac in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, where Trump Force One has just landed. The president's looking to close out this primary, maybe get the nomination. We're going to get a chance to go inside, follow him around to his final event, and see what the game plan is. How's it going? It's been a while.
It's going good. I hope you like the plane.
I think it's fantastic. Now, this is a new plane from the one you had when you were doing The Apprentice, right?
We have, yeah, it is. Different. It's been quite nice.
So, as much as you love this plane, how is it different from another plane you're aspiring to get back on? Air Force One.
Oh, that's Air Force One is always Air Force One, even if this is nicer. Air Force One is still Air Force One. I mean, it represents something very special.
I haven't seen you in a while. You look like you're in fighting shape. How much weight did you lose?
Maybe 15, maybe 20.
How?
The hard way. I work. I've been so busy. I haven't been able to eat very much. I'm not able to sit down and eat like a person like you. You can sit down and eat. Me, it's a little bit tougher.
Because you're always moving. Mr. President, have you thought about, as you look to close out this primary, that this is the last election? This is your third one, but the last. Have you getting retrospective at all?
I don't think of it that way. It is, but I don't think of it that way. I think this is just as enthusiastic as I was for the first.
Thank you very much. This is a crowded place.
And I will say we had tremendous enthusiasm for 1 and 2, far more for this one than I've ever seen before. You have to see the crowds we're getting. We have never seen enthusiasm like this, and I think a big part of that, they liked the job I did, but a big part of that is how bad this administration has been. This is the worst president in the history of our country. This man is grossly incompetent, and he's going to get us into a World War III.
What is the game plan on the final day of a primary? You've been through this before. Can you bring our audience behind the scenes and what your mindset is to close it out? Why did you pick the city you did, and what's the message tonight?
Well, I think this is really just a very special time. We had a great time also in Iowa. As you know, we broke every record in the book, and it was beautiful and fantastic people. And here we have fantastic people. You have them all over the country. It's all the same. We have unbelievable patriots all over the country, and they want to see our country come back. They want to see, it's very simple. They want to make America great again. They want it to be great. They want to put America first. And we are doing that, and I think we're doing it at a level that people haven't seen. But I think we're going to be in very good shape.
Right. Can you show me the plane a little? I mean, we got the flat screen behind you, got the beautiful couches here.
I do. We have a nice screen right behind. This is the area, more or less the living room, and if you want, I'll just take you really quick, because I have to make a speech. There are a lot of people waiting.
This is the lounge to get away?
Well, this is a nice area that I put you in if you want solitude. Which you never want.
Yeah, I never want solitude.
Which you never want.
I like the audience.
These are really working spaces. I'm a worker.
Right.
I'm not a pleasure guy. I'm a worker guy. And, it's just, it's a tremendous plane for that. It's got great speed and all the things. It gets us to where we're going on time.
So can I tell you what I noticed? When you invited me on the plane one time when you were doing The Apprentice, and you weren't running for office, you had a folder full of news articles before the digital age really kicked in, and you were just flipping through. Where's that passion for the news? It's always been there.
I still have it, and I still have articles too. And I like articles better than the internet, if you want to know the truth. I like paper. I like to touch it.
Mr. Mr. President, I know you have a speech to make. I appreciate the tour. What's your approach? Final locking out New Hampshire?
Well, we want to close it up. I think we will close it up. I think it's going to be very successful, and we're having a lot of fun.
Where are the notes? Where's the teleprompter? What's going on?
I don't need too many notes, unlike Biden.
Right.
Have a good time, everybody.
All right, but I'm going to go with you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Well, thank you very much. This is a crowded place. And I just visited some overflow rooms, and you're not in an overflow room, but this is crowded, and outside you got a lot of people. But that's like a poll, right? That's like taking a poll when you get right down. So thank you very much. And hello, New Hampshire. We are really going to rock in New Hampshire, and we're going to have a little fun tonight. And we can give you, this is the last speech. Think of it. It's a little sad, but we'll be back a lot because we're going to get your energy prices down. You know, we're going to get you energy down by, I would say a solid 50% within 1 year. I promise. Tomorrow is the day that each and every one of you is going to cast the most important vote of your entire life. This is a very, very important vote. When you step into that voting booth, you're going to be signaling that we want crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of our country. We got to get him out. His radical left lunatics, the entire sick political establishment in our nation's capital. We're going to do things, and we're going to do things right. We're going to bring our country back. With your vote, you're going to put Crooked Joe and his protectors on notice that we are coming in November. We're coming to take over the beautiful, beautiful White House, and we're going to run the country the way it's supposed to be run, not the way it's being run right now. The corrupt Washington swamp has done everything in its power to take away your voice. And Tuesday, I believe that New Hampshire will be I would say the place on earth for that period of time will speak the loudest of any other place. You know, we just got back from a beautiful, beautiful state, Iowa, and the expectations were good, and we exceeded them by a lot, by a lot. We set records. It was actually a record in the history of the state. That was a record for what we were doing, and everybody was a little bit surprised. They thought we were going to win by a lot, but we won by record stuff. Nobody has done better, and we're going to do that here. I believe we're going to do that here. Now, you do have to do one thing. You have to get the Democrats stop voting in a Republican primary. What's that all about? You know what that is? That's a weak governor. That's a weak governor that would allow that. Democrats are not supposed to be voting in Republican primaries. Do we agree? So anyway, but get out and vote. And, you know, I spent a lot of time in Iowa saying this. We had very big polls, just like we do now. We just got some in, the fantastic polls. But assume you're one down, please, okay? And get out of bed and just get to vote. Grab your neighbor, grab everybody. You gotta go out because we have to win by big margins. And the reason we have to do that, Al, very simple. You know what the reason is in November? We have to send the signal that we're not playing games. This country has gone to hell. This country has gone to hell. We have people pouring in our borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Nobody knows where they're from. Unvetted, unchecked. It's a terrible thing that's happening to our country, and you have to get out in numbers. Even if you think we're going to win big, and I think we are, but you're going to have to show it, and we want to have that so that come November, we're going to be in a position where people are not, and we have to stop the cheating. We're going to stop the cheating. You know, the one way you know you win is when you swamp them. Not drain the swamp, build up the swamp in this case. Tomorrow we're going to win New Hampshire, and then we're going to defeat crooked Joe Biden, and we are going to make America great again. Okay? And thank you. Thank you very much. And if you need information or anything, nh.donaldjtrump.com, right? nh.donaldjtrump.com. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So every day, yeah, thank you very much. That was handled very quickly. By the way, that was handled in record time, I think. Thank you. Good job. Good job back there. Thank you very much. Every day, the Republican Party is becoming more and more unified. Thank you very much. That was a good job. Boy, that was quick. That took about 9 seconds. Thank you. Every day, the Republican Party is becoming more and more unified, and it is. And you see what happened? I mean, we had a very good competitor, Ron, as you know, Ron DeSantis, and he fought hard and he fought well, and now we have one left. We started off with, really, if you add some Democrats into it, we started off with 13, and now we're down to 2 people. And I think one person will be gone probably tomorrow. And the other one will be gone in November. But now is the time for the Republican Party to come together. We have to unify. That's why I'm delighted to be joined today by a number of outstanding leaders, big leaders, powerful leaders, greatly respected leaders. And they're also unbelievable competitors. And we're all on the same team, 100% focused on Biden and beating him in November. So I just want to introduce to you for just a few seconds, a few people that have been incredible on the campaign trail. They've been really good, and they'll have a lot to do with what's happening in the country over the next 4 years, and I'm sure long beyond that. Vivek, please come here. Vivek Ramaswamy.
I love you back. It's good to be back here. We will speak the truth and get this done. We are in the middle of a war in this country. It's not between black and white or even between most Democrats and Republicans. It is between those of us who love this country and a fringe minority who hates the United States of America and what we stand for. Between the permanent state and the everyday citizen. And right now we need a commander-in-chief who will lead us to victory in this war. That is this man standing right here. If you want to seal the border, vote Trump. If you want to restore law and order in this country, vote Trump. If you want to defeat the deep state, vote Trump. If you want to fight inflation, vote Trump. If you want to revive national pride in this country, vote Trump. If you want to revive our national identity in this country, vote Trump. If you want to make America great again, vote Trump. That's how we're going to win this in a landslide in November, like Reagan delivered in 1980. That's what we're going to deliver, and Donald Trump is going to deliver this November. Reunite this country. You guys do your part. Come out on Tuesday night. End this primary right here. Off to defeat Joe Biden in November, and our best days as a nation are still yet ahead of us. Vote Trump, and that's how we do this. God bless you and your families and our United States. Vote Trump.
Thank you very much. Vivek, we love him. Dynamo. He's a dynamo. So one of the most respected governors in the country, brilliant guy, made a lot of money, and then he said, let me run for office. We know about that. And he is truly from North Dakota and done really an incredible job. And he's a friend of mine, become a friend of mine, and a really good one. Doug Burgum. Doug.
When I became governor, it was the same night that Donald Trump was elected back in November 16, and the world changed because I've had an opportunity to serve under Joe Biden as president and Donald Trump. When Donald Trump was president, our nation was safe and our nation was prosperous. Joe Biden, his weakness has led to war. His weakness and his appeasement has led to our adversaries like Iran and Russia making hundreds of billions of dollars selling oil to China. Economy, energy, national security, those are all three tied together. There's one candidate in this race that understands how to make our nation more secure, our nation more prosperous. It's the person who did it when he was president before. That's Donald J. Trump. Biden has been a disaster on the economy, he's been a disaster on energy, and he's been a disaster on national security, including the border. Under Donald J. Trump, our cities were safer, our country was safer, and we were absolutely economically better off than we are to now. Joe Biden's energy policies are empowering our dictators, and they're hurting our economy. They're raising the prices of what you pay for gas in your car, food on your table, and energy to heat your homes. We need Donald Trump. America needs Donald Trump, and the reason why we do is because he's the individual that knows how to solve these problems. He knows how to keep America safe. He knows how to make us more prosperous. And I want to tell you, I've got an ask for all of you in New Hampshire. I've met a lot of you campaigning around the state, but the ask is this. Tomorrow you've got to get out and bring your friends. You've got to bring everybody and vote, because the eyes of the world are on New Hampshire tomorrow. They're going to be looking at how you vote. We end this primary tomorrow in New Hampshire with a fantastic win. And guess what? It's not just America. It's every foreign dictator. It's every terrorist group is going to be rethinking their plans when they know we've got a strong and experienced president who will stand up to them and bring America and make America great again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doug. That was good. Hey, they did a very good job, didn't they? You'll be seeing a lot of them. And we have another one. Everybody knows him. And today was a big story, the biggest story out there. He's engaged to be married. We never thought this was going to happen. What's going on? A very, very fine person, a man that we work so closely and I work so closely with. He was in the Senate. He's been there now a long time, and one of the most respected people in all of Washington, Senator Tim Scott, South Carolina.
All right, all right, all right. If you want 4 more years of Donald Trump, let me hear you scream. If you want the race to be over tomorrow, let me hear you scream. All right. How many of y'all want 4 more years of low inflation under Donald Trump? How many of y'all want 4 more years of low crime and high law and order under Donald J. Trump? How many of y'all want me to stop talking so you can hear from your next president, Donald J. Trump? 4 more years. 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 4 more years.
Thank you, fellas. Great people. They are great people. Thank you very much. That's a great group of people. You'll be seeing a lot of them. Sadly, not everyone is willing to put our country first. Here in New Hampshire, Nikki Haley has made an unholy alliance with rhinos, never Trumpers, Americans for No Prosperity. Did you ever hear that? Did you ever hear them? Americans for No Prosperity. I added the word no in. Globalists and radical left communists to get liberals and Biden supporters to vote for her in the Republican primary. You've got a lot of Democrats voting for her. You have a crazy election. Let's all get out and let's vote for somebody that we want to run against. They want to run against because she's so easy to beat. If you look at the polls, Biden beats her by a lot. We cannot have that. We cannot have gone this far and let that happen. The people behind Nikki Haley are pro-amnesty, pro-China, pro-open borders, pro-war, pro-deep state, and pro-Biden. That's not too good. Rhino is right. Yeah, that's true. Thank you. Thank you, darling. Appreciate it. She just gave me a very good idea, actually. Our movement is pro-borders, pro-jobs, pro-freedom, and it's really something that's very, like, common sense. 100%
pro-America. It's very simple. We are the party of common sense, and that's what we are. You know, we're conservative, we're this, we're that. Who cares? We're the party of it's all about common sense. It's about strong borders, low taxes, great education, few regulations, and we had it all. We've never had an economy in history, in the history of our country, we never had an economy so good as it was just a few years ago.
Yeah. Former New Hampshire congressional candidate Matt Mowers. Matt, look, she's off to a perfect start. She's 6 for 6. But in reality, if she does not outright win tonight, what is the margin that you are looking for where she will say, look, I'm going to continue with this campaign or I'm out?
Well, I don't expect it to be a shutout, unlike in Dixville Notch at midnight. But, you know, look, I think she's got to keep it within 10. If she's able to do that, she's going to show that she was able to build a campaign in states like New Hampshire. Now, there's a lot of things going for her. And honestly, for any candidate that would have emerged as the non-Trump candidate, you have a number of independents that are going to make up almost half of the electorate, probably about 45 to 47%, according to most polls. So that was the independent or unaffiliated voters. You've got a popular Republican governor in Chris Sununu, who is campaigning almost like her running mate right now. And so if she can do that, if she can show that she can bring it close to Donald Trump here in New Hampshire, she can then look to other states that have open primaries or potentially no party registration states, including South Carolina, her home state, but also then looking to states like Michigan and a whole host of other states that have similar types of voting patterns on Super Tuesday.
In terms of the issues, going all the way back to Iowa last week, exit polls show that immigration was the #1 issue on people's minds. What do you think is going to be driving people to the polls in New Hampshire?
Well, you know, every state is a border state, and actually in the case of New Hampshire, we truly are a border state with the Canadian border. We've actually seen an uptick in the amount of illegal crossings of the northern border, including a lot of movement of drugs. And so it impacts folks in New Hampshire just as much as many other states across the country. And so I expect it's going to be the border, but also small businesses are the backbone of the New Hampshire economy. And so rising inflation continues to be one of the #1 issues here, alongside concerns about security on the southern border.
Meantime, Democrats, yeah, they're doing something tonight as well. They hope President Biden gets enough write-in votes. But here are some angry New Hampshire voters. Listen.
Well, I'm kind of angry about it. And some people have said, why should we write his name in when he won't even give us the time of day?
We're disappointed this year not to have the Democratic primary. And that's why we're doing this, because it's not meaningless like the DNC says. It really is meaningful.
I think, you know, the Democratic National Committee has said that the primary, the Democratic primary here is not relevant or real. And I think that's just nonsense.
Neighbors. These are the people you live with and around. Are there enough betrayed New Hampshire Democrats to somehow give Joe Biden a loss tonight?
I mean, I don't think you're going to have enough to create a loss, but it is going to be a closer than expected scare for Joe Biden. You know, the challenge you have is that every single Democrat elected official, so Jeanne Shaheen, Maggie Hassan, the 2 U.S. senators, as well as the 2 members of Congress, have gone out and publicly said they're writing in Joe Biden. They're telegraphing that message to grassroots Democratic activists to show a sign of their belief in collectivism and just kind of all fall into line, by the way. The advertising sent out and direct mail pieces on social media by the Write-in Biden campaign shows the communist fist on the to stand in solidarity with Joe Biden, and that shows the type of collective groupthink that's happening right now in the Democratic Party. With that said, you know, I think Dean Phillips, who's invested $5 million of his own money into this race, who's out there working hard. I've run into him now a couple of times on the campaign trail. Super nice guy, by the way. He's out there. I think he's going to overperform what many folks were expecting. Recent polls show he might even be getting close to a third of the vote, or somewhere in the 20s. If he does that, it's certainly a message to Joe Biden about frustration from Democratic Party activists, and whether that's because of overall dissatisfaction with his administration or potentially because he decided to try to kill off the first of the nation primary here in New Hampshire.
Well, the polls open in T-minus 49 minutes and 51 seconds.
The camera's hiding it a little bit. Yeah.
So it's going to be an exciting day in New Hampshire. But who's counting? Matt, thank you so much for joining us, giving us your perspective. We appreciate it.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
So Lawrence just talked to the people inside the tavern, which it sounds like a lot of them are going to go for Donald Trump this morning. Obviously, he's not in Dixville Notch, New Hampshire, because they historically all get together at midnight and they vote. And they did last night at midnight, and the winner was 6-0. Nikki Haley. And the interesting thing about this is when you break down who voted.
The population.
Well, forget about the population. There are 4 registered Republicans who voted, and then 2 of those undecided or undeclared.
That's the population, 6 people.
Well, because this is a resort area. And what they did is because the resort, I think it was the resort was closed, they did the voting in the living room of the Tillotsons. And apparently, according to news reports, chocolate chip cookies were served, and there was a golden retriever there.
How cute. I mean, that is America right there. The town moderator is named Tom Tillotson. His dad is the one.
His house.
His dad started this tradition back in 1954 because everyone in that town, all 6 of them, were tired of driving 45 miles to the closest polling site. So they said, let's just bring it here. An AP reporter gave them this idea, and they started this tradition more than 50 years ago. And the moderator, who's now the son of the man who brought it, Tom Tillotson, he said, we get our 15 minutes of fame every 4 years because, as y'all know, it brings in journalists and media outlets from all over the world, literally.
Right, that's what's great about Iowa and New Hampshire. It gets the spotlight over this period of time every single 4-year cycle. So I just want to bring this up. It's kind of interesting to see Nikki Haley sprint through with at least 5 different events yesterday. Right. Donald Trump thought he had a court case. They canceled it, postponed till Wednesday. So he had one event scheduled at night. And 2 days ago, he brought in the South Carolina contingent that's endorsing him. Yesterday, he brought in his former opponents, who are now allies, to say, get on. They are now on board the Trump train. And listen to how they introduced him and let them know how they felt about the former president. Watch.
Tomorrow is the day that each and every one of you is going to cast the most important vote of your entire life. This is a very, very important vote. When you step into that voting booth, you are going to be signaling that we want crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of our country. We got to get him out.
If you want to make America great again, vote Trump.
There's one candidate in this race that understands how to make our nation more secure, our nation more prosperous. It's the person who did it when he was president before. That's Donald J. Trump.
How many of y'all want 4 more years of low crime and high law and order under Donald J. Trump?
Trump and Biden, it's a dead heat. It's going to be a nail-biter of an election. We don't know what's going to happen. I'm in every one of those same general election polls, and I defeat Biden by up to 17 points. You go into D.C. with a mandate to stop the wasteful spending and get our economy back on track, a mandate to get our kids reading again and go back to the basics with education, a mandate to secure our borders, no more excuses, a mandate for law and order in this country, and a mandate for a strong America that we can all be proud of. Don't you want that?
Only 2 strong candidates in Lawrence. Behind the scenes, you see that Byron Donalds was there last night, Don Jr. was there last night, Corey Lewandowski was there last night, and he had 3 former opponents who are immediately more than willing to say, I put a fight up, but this guy, the better man, won, and I'm on board.
Yeah, Brian, it's really about not just the surrogates, but where the energy is in the movement. And I think it's so hard for these candidates that typically would have gotten so much traction from average Republican voters. But when you look at the rooms that I go into every single day, the diners, or whether it's the rallies, or the people that are standing in the cold when the temperature is below 15, because they just want to see the man or try to have some type of interaction, that type of movement is hard to beat. But again, things can change on Election Day. There can be people that show up. There could be this secret voter. But as I always say, when the diners and people on the ground, if it's consistent with the polling, then I don't really look forward to upsets because it's consistent. But if it's inconsistent, then maybe something can happen. Right now, it looks like it's heading toward the former president now, Steve.
Good point, Lawrence, regarding the polls. But the polls are, for the most part, registered Republicans. And what is unique about New Hampshire is the fact, and I mentioned this a couple of times yesterday, you've got 300,000 Republicans, 300,000 Democrats, but you got 400,000 independents or undeclared. With the undeclareds, Nikki Haley leads, but the problem with undeclareds is they are less motivated. And so one of the Koch brothers organizations, what they're doing is they're working out in behalf of Nikki Haley. They have already knocked on 630,000 doors here in New Hampshire. They're trying to get 20,000 people to vote who vote in the general but don't vote in the primary. So that's the key. That's the margin. They want to find 20,000 people who go to vote in November every time but never vote today. They want to get them to vote today.
Trump has to keep that front runner status. Nikki Haley's trying to get those independents and people that are not necessarily the MAGA Trumpers. New Hampshire voters, it's very suburban here. It's less evangelically conservative Republican primary as far as the electorate's concerned. And voters who are registered as undeclared can vote in this New Hampshire primary, the Republican primary. Now, Nikki Haley did see a spike, according to her campaign, in donations after Ron DeSantis dropped out. She saw a spike of 500,000 from grassroots donors online. She was campaigning across the state yesterday, vowing she's in this for the long haul. She'll be on our show today. We'll ask her about that. How long? If Donald Trump does win today here, so he wins Iowa, if he wins New Hampshire and the polls are right, what does that mean for her going forward?
Right. Also, the president picked up the Catholic vote yesterday. That Brian Birch, a major Catholic organization, signed on with him.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
And there you go. And that is why Congressman Dean Phillips of Minnesota in Hampton, New Hampshire yesterday was talking about running for president. He says, I just want to get on these ballots. The Democratic Party is trying to keep me out, and he does not get it. I talked to him on television an hour ago, and I talked to him often on camera. He's literally befuddled on how the party is so afraid to admit that Joe Biden's got some problems in the polls and people should be allowed to run against him. Maybe Andrew Yang feels the same way, former presidential candidate. He is here with me right in studio. Andrew, great to see you.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me. New Hampshire, let's go.
All right. And what generally do you mean by let's go? Just make sure you show up, or?
Well, New Hampshire, let's go and vote for my guy, Dean Phillips. Let's move on from Joe Biden as the incumbent. I think the state and the country are ready for a different leader.
What bothers you about him?
I think so. This may differ from some others. I mean, I think he's accomplished a significant amount, but I think he's the wrong candidate for 2024. I think in the general election he would lose to Donald Trump, as Dean has been making the case. I think there is a lot of frustration over the fact that the DNC has not played it straight up here in New Hampshire or in North Carolina or in Florida, where they're canceling primaries. I mean, how can you literally give a speech championing democracy on one hand and then turn around and suppress it on the other? That is what is going on in this Democratic primary, and Dean Phillips is calling it out, and he's about to show everyone that people don't want just the battle of the 80-year-olds.
How do you know him?
Dean and I met a couple of years ago at a campaign finance reform event. He's a serving member of Congress. He said, look, I don't take PAC money, I don't take lobbyist money. I think it's terrible that all my colleagues are constantly scurrying off to dollar for dollars. And I heard this guy and I was like, wow, this is a member of Congress? I could get behind this. So we became friends. And then he publicly said what I think most people were thinking, which is Joe shouldn't run for re-election. He then got attacked for that, which made me like him even more.
Right.
So Dean and I have been friends for the last couple of years.
Is it age or is it policy with Biden that has you so turned off?
I think the two are blending together, to be honest with you. But someone in New Hampshire asked me what's the difference between Dean and Joe Biden. I said about 27 years. I mean, that's like a pretty big gulf. Imagine having a 55-year-old leader who's robust and can play hockey, and you're not worried about them heading into a retail establishment and campaigning. I mean, these are basics, but I've run for president. I think having an 81-year-old candidate would be a massive handicap in the fall.
So Senator Maggie Hassan of New Hampshire, Democrat, said this, cut 24.
I think President Biden has the strongest record to run on that we've seen in a very long time in this country. I think there is a lot of anxiety in this country about prices. That's why we need to continue the work that we've done. But in addition to doing the bipartisan work, President Biden and Democrats have stood up to Big Pharma, for instance, to lower prescription drug prices. We are investing in clean energy and helping granite staters lower their energy costs.
Did she effectively counter your argument?
I don't think she did. She did particularly on several levels. I mean, I'm someone who agrees that America needs to be more affordable, and I think the best way to do that is to have a new chief executive who is more in touch with what's happening in the country, who wants to do things like have a universal health care system, have baby bonds, bring back the enhanced child tax credit, all of which are on Dean's platform. Maggie Hassan is acting like you need Joe Biden in office to solve these problems. And I think if Joe Biden even were to win re-election, which again I do not think would happen against Trump, you'd wind up with a sharply divided Congress that's likely to get very, very little done. Dean is the second most bipartisan member of Congress on record right now. And he's going to have a nonpartisan, bipartisan cabinet. He's going to bring in people from outside of government. He's actually going to be much, much better positioned to solve some of these problems.
But yet he voted with Joe Biden every step of the way.
If you like a policy, and like I can't speak for Dean's perspective on all of this, but I happen to like a lot of Joe's policies. And if Dean becomes president, he's going to be a problem solver, as he was as a leader of the Problem Solvers Caucus. He's obviously not afraid to flout the party. I mean, he's running against the sitting president right now. Like, you can imagine all the slings and arrows that are coming out for this guy. He's got a backbone like a steel rod. And so when the party is going astray, he'll call it out, like the border. He thinks what's happening in the border right now is backward and ridiculous. He wants to do common sense things like establish a buffer zone, have people apply for asylum in their own country as opposed to having to come into the U.S. to apply for asylum. We have Byzantine, nonsensical policies on the border that Democrats constantly ignore or apologize for. And you know who's calling it out? Dean Phillips.
Well, I'll tell you what, one thing is pretty clear. 33% approval rating according to ABC for the President of the United States. But in New Hampshire, as a write-in candidate, Andrew Yang, he gets 63% of the vote. Other gets 11, and 10 is to Dean Phillips.
Our poll has it at 32%, Dean Phillips. The crowd he's getting around
What's
the
your
state.
poll?
So it's published by the American Research Group, and it says Dean Phillips is at 32% as of this weekend. He's drawing crowds of hundreds of New Hampshire voters everywhere he goes. And if you look at the standard that Joe Biden has to hit, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton in New Hampshire got 84% of the primary electorate vote. Joe Biden, this is what's going to happen in real life, guys. Dean's going to put up a shockingly big number, and then the Biden campaign is going to be spinning it and apologizing for the fact that Joe Biden got whatever it's going to be, 55, like 58%. They'll be like, oh, that's good. Guys, that's freaking terrible for an incumbent Democratic president to get that among his own people in New Hampshire. The threshold should be 81, 84%. After he falls short of that, you're going to see they'll be like, oh, it doesn't mean anything. It means a whole heck of a lot.
Andrew Yang, finally, do you think New Hampshire people have a right to be upset by the Democratic Party?
Oh, yeah. A very prominent New Hampshire Democrat who unfortunately couldn't go on the record because that's a culture in the Democratic Party right now. So that's like an abusive relationship. If you're a New Hampshire voter listening to this, if you're an independent, you should be pissed off to no end at the DNC because they are punishing you for having a primary that you were required by state law to have. Right. Think about that. That's insane. Dean24.com. Let's change it.
Andrew Yang, you're not insane. I appreciate the quality time. And on the record, I will go on the record saying you're not insane. Thank you very much.
I will take it, Brian. Thank you.
That's you. Andrew Yang, thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.
is cheering in New Hampshire for both candidates as voters are hitting the polls this morning. Fox and Friends Weekend co-host Pete Hegseth joins us live here in New Hampshire. And we have our marching band outside. Did they wake you up, Pete?
They didn't wake me up, but I thought about joining them. Great to see. It isn't a big event without the Fox and Friends
it's true.
marching band.
It's true. It's kind of become our tradition for voting days.
For sure.
Okay, primary today. Polls are open. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are this, just a spidey sense from watching all of it. We've been talking a lot about these undeclared voters, right, that can go either way. It doesn't mean there's not a lot of Republicans in New Hampshire who are undeclared voters. I think with DeSantis dropping out and Vivek dropping out, I think you see a really big night for Donald Trump tonight. I really do. I think you're looking at mid-50s, maybe even pushing up to 60. If that were to happen, I think the race ends in New Hampshire. That's why everyone should watch tonight, because of all the implications.
Yep.
But I don't see how Nikki Haley continues. If he has a big win tonight into South Carolina, where she's behind by 30 or 40 points in race and polls, the momentum will just continue. At that point, it's a general election.
Okay, immigration, it's a huge issue. It used to be, we always heard the economy, inflation, that's the #1 issue. It's still a big deal. You heard the lady in the diner saying, I'm a small business owner, I have to pay all these salaries, insurance. We know so many people that are in that boat that are in charge of so many people, and it's very stressful.
For sure.
Trying to save money for your retirement and your kids' college. We know it's stressful, but can you imagine owning a business and having to be in charge? That's a big concern. But immigration also is a big concern. And in New Hampshire, this is big because Lawrence in Iowa interviewed a bunch of people in these diners. They said immigration was their #1 issue. We're hearing that a lot in New Hampshire. If you look at the stats, Pete, in 2015, New Hampshire's drug overdose death rate was the 2nd highest in the nation. Are you hearing that on the ground here?
For sure. China is poisoning our population, and especially in those forgotten towns, in those small towns, in those blue-collar towns, where mostly men, but men and women are facing really tough job prospects. So it goes back to even the economy, too, and as a result are turning to drugs, and maybe they don't even think they're taking fentanyl. Oftentimes they're laced. And it all gets traced back to the precursors in China and the southern border being wide open. And if you're looking at those two things, who are you looking at? You're looking at Donald Trump. This is not even an issue without Trump making it an issue inside the Republican Party in 2014, in 2015. The Republican Party before that was a country club, establishment, club for growth, Koch brothers, Chamber of Commerce, Republican Party that was talked a little bit about, comprehensive immigration reform. Trump said, close it. He even said recently, as soon as I lift my hand off the Bible as the 47th president, I'm going to seal the border. So I've heard Nikki Haley talk about securing the border. That's good. That's because Republicans have all moved in that direction. But the original gangster on securing the border is Trump, and he'll go at China on those precursors too. So I think you see a lot of people still believing that he hears the cries of that middle class and wants to represent for
Isn't it crazy that now Democrats are realizing this is a big issue for America?
I wonder if they really realize. I mean, hearing Joe Biden say, "Oh yeah, it's not. The border is open, but it's been open for 10 years." That's a sham argument to ask for more ask for more money, to cut more razor wire, to let more illegals in. They're fast forwarding. They'll play some politics with it. But if your issue is immigration, you're coming to Donald Trump at this point.
All right, what do you have going on Fox Nation?
So join us on Fox Nation for the watch party. We did it in Iowa, inside an Iowa caucus, 8 p.m. Eastern time tonight. First of all, make sure you watch the channel. We're not saying you shouldn't watch the channel. Watch all the amazing coverage on Fox News. But then have a second screen on your iPad or on your phone, and we're going to be at a watch party just down the road from here. I'll be there with Tom Bevan, Real Clear Politics. We're breaking down the polls. Ben Domenech will be there. We got Jimmy Failure. Brian Kilmeade's going to pop in for a little bit. We're there with the people, kind of like a diner feel.
Yeah.
As people are watching the returns come in, you can watch it with us on Fox Nation.
I actually did that during Iowa. We were watching on my phone, Fox Nation. So it was great to hear you during the commercial breaks on Fox. But then I was also watching Brett and Martha on the channel. So you can do both.
You can do both.
All right.
It's a wired world.
Are you having fun here?
Good to see you. It's great. Yeah.
It's
great to see you.
Good to see you, too.
Always.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.